317 weigh-ins right now. But we're also going to talk about the Joe Rogan and the Liver King situation because it's one of the hottest news right now. And I was going to figure maybe I would do a video on it, but then I thought, you know what? This is probably better for a live stream. Now, it's probably better for some content creators to do it on video, but for me, I think it would be great to do it on live stream. So here we go. But while we're doing that, we're also going to be covering Joe Rogan. Yes, while we're covering Joe Rogan snitching on Liver King, we're also going to cover UFC 317 as well. And by the way, this is going to get really interesting because there's some cultural dynamics that I would like to talk about with this particular live stream. Okay. Uh, Obviously, there are people out there that believe what Joe Rogan did was the right thing. I happen to not be one of those people, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you exactly why I don't think Joe Rogan did the right thing. Okay, I'm going to give you explicit details why Joe Rogan didn't do the right thing and why he should have done something completely different. And you know what? Here's the thing. I'm just going to say it like this, right? What is the point of having a security force team if they can't do their job? You understand? Like, what is the point of that? So that's what we're going to talk about in just a second. So Marty Miller, first one in here. Shout out to you. Would have been awesome to just have them fight. Well, Marty Miller, I tell you what. I'm gonna pin that comment right there because that's an important, thing to consider in this, right? They should have fought. You're correct. uh, Joe Rogan would have absolutely whooped his ass. Okay, there is no doubt about that. Anybody that thinks otherwise, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you if you think otherwise. But I tell you what, we're going to wait for a couple more minutes to pile more people in here, and we're going to get right to it in exactly 60 seconds. Okay, so bear in mind 60 seconds. Okay, we'll be right back for 60 seconds. Oh, okay. So Texas is a mutual combat state. All right. Well, I tell you what, man, you just contributed even more to this story right now. Okay, so mutual combat state it is, huh? Being that it's a mutual combat state, this makes it even worse. I'm going to be honest with you. What is more American than having a mutual combat state, right? What is more American than that? I mean, can anybody tell me what is more American than having a mutual combat state? I know in Washington, they have a mutual combat state, and you look at Washington, they're very big into MMA. California doesn't have anything mutual combat. California's whole entire law is predicated on if you run up on my house, I better do the following: make you tea, make you coffee, and make your life easier as you're trying to rob me. That's the California mentality. I mean, not really. There are instances where you do get away with a self defense. For example, Snoop Dogg was sort of in that same category, right? I mean, if you guys don't remember, Snoop Dogg unalived a man, right? And went to trial for it and was funded by Death Row Records to fight that case. And he ended up winning by a technicality of a self defense or not guilty by the very least. So they basically gave him a not guilty plea based on the fact that it was a self defense. So, but on any regard, Joe Rogan. Okay, I'm going to tell you why I think Joe Rogan is a snitch. First of all, uh, there's a lot of gangbangers, a lot of people that are about that life that would absolutely oppose me saying this. Okay, they would oppose me saying that Joe Rogan is a snitch. You want to know why? because Joe Rogan's not a gangbanger. He's not a criminal. He's not a drug dealer. He's not about that life in any kind of way. So I would be criticized by people of that world because they would say, well, Joe Rogan is neither of those things. Joe Rogan is a square. He tells you that he trains with cops. He tells you that he's friends with cops and this and that. Look, here's the thing, right? I grew up with some people that became cops and were friends of mine till this day. But by the end of the day, I would never go out of my way to tell them any information that is regarding one person or the other. I just would not do that. That's just not what I would do. Okay. Now, uh, Joe Rogan, on the other hand, okay, here's something you got to understand about Joe Rogan. The man is, how do I say this? He's a combat athlete. Okay, Joe Rogan is a combat athlete. I You guys understand that, right? So when you are part of this world of combat athletics, there's a certain code of honor that we just don't do. We don't call the cops based on the type of beef that we have with one guy. And here's another thing. Liver King is an untrained idiot. He is an untrained idiot. The guy has no training. Okay, a guy just lifts weights all day. He reminds me of these dumb bro heads that I see in Venice Beach, that I see in 24-hour gyms, that I see in places where, they can walk around like they're big or this and that, but, they run across somebody like myself who's plain looking, okay? Like I don't have an Arnold Schwarzenegger type of body, nor do I want to. Uh I don't look like the action, well, I don't know about that, but I don't look like the quintessential Mr. Olympia on a bodybuilding thing, but I would beat your ass because of the years that I've trained and the hours that I put in and this, that, and the other, right? That's what I think Joe Rogan should have done. And then on top of that, here's another thing about Joe Rogan. The man has Navy SEALs backing him up. So if you got Navy SEALs that are backing you up, man, you don't need the police. And you know what? I'll further go as to say that the police are for people that are for the weak and that can't protect themselves. Okay, and this is the reason why many gang members would probably look down on the idea that I'm calling Joe Rogan a snitch, because he's not a snitch, he's a civilian. Well, he's not a civilian in the world of combat, he's a combat athlete. You've seen the training videos of Joe Rogan, the spinning back kicks, the type of attacks that Joe Rogan can hit you with. That guy doesn't need to be calling the cops, especially if you got your own security force. What is the point of paying for your own security forces only to get another man locked up? Now, I want you to understand that this blame, or this scolding, is going to go two ways. Okay, not only am I scolding Joe Rogan for being a snitch, I'm also scolding Liver King for being a bozo. Okay, he's an idiot. You want to know where all of this beef started? Let's go back to the fact that Joe Rogan went on one of his podcasts and said something to the effect that, hey, Liver King is not natural. He takes steroids. This is the reason why he looks like the way he does. Okay, well, is that a fact? Yes, it is. It's a fact. All right, so if that's a fact, then what are you mad about, Liver King? Like, you want the world to believe that you just, did all this naturally by eating liver meat from liver chicken and liver beef and this and that? I don't think so, man. I think there's more to it than what's going on. So just be honest about it. Joe Rogan called you out. Joe Rogan was being honest about it. And at the same time, Joe Rogan became a coward, because here's something you got to understand, guys. I got a lot of people that I try to encourage to do podcasts, right? Most of these types of people are military people, former military people, people that are from the streets, or people that are former fighters or current fighters, right? The reason why I tell them to do a podcast is because, hey, you know what? I think you lived a very interesting life, and I think that you could do something with that and convey certain messages to the world. Sort of like what I'm doing with you guys right now, right? I've lived a pretty eventful life, right? I've seen very interesting things. I've been around very interesting people. So it's a great focal point to get on line and stream and talk about it. Well, the problem is getting these guys to do it is a problem because here's the thing: they're scared of conflict. Let's just put this in reality, right? It's bad enough some of these guys are already living in conflict in their personal lives, right? The interesting people that I was telling you about, but it's even worse now that you go online and you got people hating on you. Okay. By the way, Fresh Melon Juice, shout out to you. I am watching the weigh-in show, and we're going to talk about that right now. I know they had Christopher Ewart kicked out and released from the UFC for not making weight, 10 pounds overweight. And that's because it was predicated on the fact that they called him 1 week to come in here and fight Jackson McVeigh. But on any degree, Fresh Melon Juice says restraint order is to make sure Rogan doesn't hurt him or go to prison. Okay, well, that's one way of looking at it. But you know what? I look at it like this, right? If you're an online personality, you're going to say things that are going to offend some people. And rightfully so, Joe Rogan did the right thing by hiring a security team. Guys that are former Navy SEALs, some of them are even former cops or this and that. The point is, he has his own security team. He doesn't need to be calling the cops, in my humble opinion. He doesn't need to be calling the cops. But he called the cops, and therefore he's a snitch, in my humble opinion. Just like Colby Covington is a snitch. This is no different than Colby Covington. Colby Covington brought all of this drama upon himself for Verdum to throw a boomerang at him, for Jorge Masvidal, even though after he defeated him in a fight already, okay, he beat him by points. He then goes on to press even harder on Jorge Masvidal, only for Jorge Masvidal to roll up at him at a Miami steakhouse and punch him right in his face. And then he goes and calls the cops. Okay, then he goes and calls the cops. After that, he has these conversations with the cops. He's saying, yeah, it was a pay-per-view fight that I won or this and that, saying all these details that really don't matter to the cops and just looking like the biggest snitch ever talking to the cops, period. Well, man, listen, Joe Rogan is no different than that. And I get it. A lot of people are going to say, yeah, you know what? That's the responsible thing to do. You call the cops or this and that. Guys, listen, I need you to understand something, okay? There's two different types of people in the world. There are wolves and there are sheeps. And I don't mean to get all training day Denzel Washington on you guys, but that's really what it is. If you are a wolf, you don't need to be calling on the bigger bad wolf, which is the feds and the police, the FBI, Homeland Security, and all of that. You don't need to be calling these people. Uh, okay, so what else did he say here? Fresh melon juice and or get sued. Yeah, okay. Fresh melon juice says Rogan is very small. He can't beat up grown people. Well, I would argue that when Joe Rogan was asked, hey, can you beat up Logan Paul? He said, dude, no way. I can't beat up those guys. I'm too old. I believe him because Logan Paul, Jake, they all train, right? I know Jake does his little boxing on the side, but he trains MMA on the side as well. And I know this in good faith with some of the people that are in his camp. Obviously, Eric Trilogy, his nutritionist, a buddy of mine. He tells me this. He trains MMA. Obviously, Logan trains MMA. He got that sparring fight that he did against Bradley, right? Another stupid bro head, right? Another stupid bro head that thinks, lifting weights is going to get him some kind of opportunity to beat up fighters. That's not the case. Well, this is the point that I'm trying to make is that he's fighting a brohead like Liver King. He can beat him up. Maybe he can't beat up Logan Paul. Maybe he can't beat up Jake Paul because they train and they're young. Maybe Joe Rogan can't beat me up because, obviously I've competed in MMA. I've competed in Muay Thai. So has Joe Rogan. I think he's fought in kickboxing as well. But on any regard, okay, I still have speed explosivity that comes from training MMA. I didn't get speed and explosivity training to be a sprinter, right? So they're okay, but the bottom line is Liver King has none of this. He has nothing. He's got nothing, and I'm surprised if he even owns a gun. I mean, maybe he does. I'm sure he does, but that's neither here nor there. So does Joe Rogan. He got a gun. So what, man? Just go out. in a blaze of glory and hold it down. That's what I say. You know what I mean? Enough of this punk shit. Oh, we're gonna call the cops and this and that. No, man, you're a combat athlete. Now, look, for those of you that are in the chat, some of you out there, right? If you were to call the cops, based on, the similar instances, I would not really hate you for that. I really wouldn't, because some of you are not about that life, and that's perfectly okay. Uh, but there are some of you that are combat athletes, and I'm going to hold you to a different standard. Um, Marty Miller says, "You think Rogan actually called, or the police just found out about it because of the popularity of both Joe and Liver King?" Okay, so I'm going to pin that uh, message right there, Marty Miller. Another great point by Marty Miller. Okay, uh, I'm going to address that. Okay, and I want everybody to read Marty Miller's comment. He said, "Do you think Rogan actually called, or the police just found out about it because of the popularity of both Joe and of Liver King?" This is a very good question. You want to know why I think this is a very good question? Who here watches hip hop content? Stuff with Whack 100, Big U. And by the way, one could argue that all these online arguments that Whack 100 and Big U had, Loose Cannon, Brick Baby, all these people from the No Jumper universe, right? You could argue that maybe a lot of the reasons why a lot of these guys get caught up is because of the trash talking that they do to each other, and the police are catching on. And there's also rumors to have been said that allegedly the feds have been listening to No Jumper's content for a long time in order to garner some kind of information in criminal investigations. So what I'm saying is there's also a lot of instances where many of these gangster rapper dudes threaten each other and the police do nothing about it. Fresh Melon Juice says, "Are you crippin' today?" Man, always. You know what I'm saying? Always. You know it. Fresh Melon Juice says, "Rogan has people who take care of this for him." Well, that's what I'm saying, my man. This is what I'm saying. Look, I can't afford Navy SEAL security forces, but you better believe I got my own security forces, if you know what I mean. And Fresh Melon Juice sort of hinted at that a little bit right now. I'm not the type of person that would be in a position to call the cops if I had a head on. I would confront it on my own, and I would confront it with my own accord. That's the way that I would do it. Now, again, I don't recommend that for everybody, because everybody has a different lifestyle. Everybody has a different outcome in their life. Everybody has a different trajectory. And as a result of that, you got to act accordingly to that. And I don't think that Joe Rogan acted accordingly to that. And it is solely based on the fact that Joe Rogan did not conduct himself as a real, true combat athlete. Okay, you don't got to be a gangbanger. You don't got to be a gangster. You don't have to be hood or this and that to be part of the anti-snitch movement. But the thing is that we're in a world where we handle things with our fists. And you know what? If it gets even more extreme to that, to the point where people want to handle it with GUNs and all of that other stuff, man, this is what I gotta say, man. You know what? Handle it on your own, because you own guns too. What's the point of being an American owning all these guns if you can't exercise your Second Amendment rights? AR says, "Assalamu alaikum. How are you? Like, comment, subscribe." YNAW. Oh, what is YNA and what does YNWA mean? Let me know what that means. Young, is it young ninja with attitude? Is that what you meant? Fresh Melon Juice says, "I don't think he makes the decision to file a restraining order. His lawyers do that for him." Well, okay, that's a very good point, Fresh Melon Juice. Automatically, that's a very good point. Okay, very good point, Fresh Melon Juice. But here's the thing, right? Do you think any of these gangster rappers would let their lawyers file charges on arrival? Do you think any of these gangster rappers would do that? Do you think Blueface would do that? Do you think when the game was beefing with G Unit, when he had his fall from grace with G Unit and broke off as a member of G Unit, and he started beefing with 50 Cent, do you think that he made his lawyer file a restraining order on him. No, that's uncalled for, right? But again, I'm not trying to use gangster rappers as the quintessential model of what you should do, but it sort of falls in line with the trajectory that we're talking about right now in terms of handling your own candle, handle your own candle, as they say. AR says in the UK, knife and drug violence is affecting the same group in the UK. We need help and support from the Almighty Allah. Man, may Allah bless you and everybody in the UK and all of that, man. But yeah, man. Uh what more can I say about this particular topic with Joe Rogan? Okay, I think the weigh-ins have ended right now, so let's take a look at some of the weigh-ins. Okay, so this is the final look of the weigh-ins right here. Armin Sarukian weighs in at 155. Ilya Tapora makes weight. Let's take a look at these graphics right here real quick. Okay, so we got Ilya Tapora 155, 154. Charles Jack Hermanson, RoboCop makes weight. Hyder and Jose make weight. Alexander Pantoja. Okay, so we got co-main and main event. Renato Moicano and Dariush. Peyton Talbot, Felipe Lima. So Christopher Ewart is out. Johanna Diaz is, well, obviously they make weight. They're heavyweights. Alvin Hines, 259. Nico Price, 170. 170. Terrence McKenna, 156. 155. All right. So uh, AR says rap means rhythm and poetry. Nowadays, with drugs showing off crime, killing, and jewelry. Yeah, that's a very good point, right? It's sort of interesting the evolution of rap and and where it's came from. But you know what? If you look at what Tupac said in MTV interview, he said something to the effect of, you know what, why my rap lyrics sound like the way they do, right? It's because, you know what, I've been asking for a long time. I've been asking by the Black Panthers. I've been asking by this one movement, this, that, and the other, and they never listened. So therefore, I had to take matters into my own hands. Let me see if I can find that interview. Tupac. Okay, on police brutality. Okay, very interesting. Tupac on police brutality. Unseen talk show in 1993. Very interesting. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, all right. So right here, let's show this video right here. You know what? So listen, a couple of good points here. Uh, AR says, I only listen to Tupac's music all the time, for sure. Man, he's big in the UK, right? It surprises me all the time, But yeah, I mean, he's an international superstar, so he's going to go beyond just the West Coast and even the East Coast that he grew up in. Uh, Fresh Melon Juice says, I don't think Joe Rogan wants to know about them. It's only cause stress in his. It's only because of the stress in his life. Okay, elaborate on that a little bit. AR says cameras show everything what the police do nowadays. Correct. That is very true. That is very true. Fresh Melon Juice says Tupac is a gay actor, and so is Dre. Well, I tell you what, there's a lot of accounts that do say that about Dre. With Tupac, though, what I will say is there was a little bit of a zesty feminine side to him when he was younger, right? Now, here's the thing. A lot of people say that, well, Tupac is not a gangster or this and that. No, he's not, but he evolved into becoming one. Look, sometimes when you get around a certain section or a certain group of people, that's just what it is. Now you adapt to their ways. All of a sudden, he moves down to LA, joins Death Row Records, but then joins the Bloods on top of it because obviously that record label was heavily affiliated with the Bloods. And so that's just the circumstances that he was. So that's what it is. Fresh Melon Juice says they are not real gangsters. Uh, I don't think Tupac ever really labeled himself, but he did engage in gangster things and then later joined a gang in a very late age of 25, right? And by the way, that's very old, by the way, to join a gang, right? They usually start you off young or this and that. AR says society and sports are controlled by money. Okay, very good point. Very good point on that. Let's take a look at and hear some reactions that people have regarding well, first, okay, let's finish off this video with Tupac and police brutality. Okay, so I need you guys to understand that part, okay? This is what I'm talking about. Okay, he said, Tupac said to the cop, I respect what you do, but we got to live in the same areas with no backup, no pepper spray. Well, nowadays it's pretty easy to buy pepper spray. It's accessible. I don't know about in 1993, but yeah, you don't have backup. You don't have none of these things. That's the reality of what is going on, right? Joe Rogan already has that. He has backup. He doesn't need the police. This is the point that I'm trying to, get across. Fresh Melon Juice says, though I don't think Joe Rogan wants to know about them. It only causes stress in their life. Yeah, what does that mean? Elaborating. Let me know. Yeah, let me know what you mean by that. But yeah, just to put in proper perspective. Okay, hold on. Let me put this in a timestamp right here. I'm gonna put this in a timestamp right here so that we can have okay, let's see here. Tupac on police brutality. Okay, we'll save it right there. Read the other. Yeah, police is the biggest gangs. Watermelon Juice. Read the other messages above. Okay. uh yeah, no, I read that part about being, a non-gangster or this and that. Yeah, police is the biggest gangsters. Mel Lynch. Yeah, that is correct. They definitely are the biggest gangsters for sure. Okay, all right. So let's get back to this small video right here with Tupac.
These people don't see it every day. No, but what I mean, like, they say it's for children in our country to have a better future than what you guys have. And that's not going to happen when he's repressing his generation and his people by saying they have no hope. What do you know about my people? I know a lot about your people.
Oh, that white girl got booed as soon as she said, "Well, I know a lot about your people." And then Tupac said, "What do you know about my people?" And then everybody just started, you know, everybody just started siding with Tupac after that. AR says Tupac is exposing the truth. It's hard to get the truth out of this society. Very true, man. You know, can you imagine what he would have done today? I don't, man. He would have been probably pro-Palestinian, and that would have probably pissed off a lot of people.
What would you say is the answer to that? Violence? You know, it's making music. What I'm doing there. It sparks dialogue, and that's how laws get made. That's how change get made. I see no changes. All I see is racist faces. This place can't mix disgrace to racist. We under. I wonder what it takes to make this a better place. Let's erase the waste. Take me about the people that we have to right. Cause both it's coming back tonight. Every time we share the road, kill each other. It takes skill to be real, to heal each other. Okay, let's get serious. All BS aside, it all comes down to we got to survive here in this country. Because I'm not going back to that. I mean, if this is truly a melting pot, then we really need to be like that. White folks, black folks, Korean folks, Mexican folks, Puerto Ricans, we got to understand each other.
All right. Well, there it is, right? So, very true on that. It is hard to get the truth out in this society. AR says behind closed doors, F up shit happens with money and corruption. Very true, man. Very true. Shout out to AR, man. Shout out to AR for that. Tupac shot two cops and got away with it. Yeah, you guys remember that one. All right. So, in other news, sort of the truth will come out when we die. Yeah, that's very true. That is very true. Okay, so another news topic that I wanted to get to, right? That's after we get to this news topic, we're going to get into MMA conversations, right? So obviously, I just wanted to open up the first 30 minutes of this live stream predicated on Joe Rogan and the Liver King situation going on, right? So we're going to elaborate more on that. But first, here's a story that I really wanted to get to, right? And we're going to get to it in 33 minutes of this live stream. So what it is Vice Mayor incites Vice Mayor of LA. Okay, so you guys heard about the Vice Mayor of LA, right? Supposedly, the Vice Mayor of LA, Cynthia Gonzalez, incited gang members to go fight the federal government, right? He was urging gang members, specifically Mexican gang members, because she's of Mexican descent, right, to retaliate against ICE. And now the FBI is investigating her. Okay, FBI investigation underway. Okay, so there it is. Now we got the timestamp on that. Okay, so Cholo says Joe Rogan is a snitch. Exactly, Cholo. This is exactly where I'm going with this. And speaking of Cholo, yeah, we're gonna get into this news topic right now.
No, I was actually super excited to do the Charlie Kirk one, but
we were doing a lot for us.
Yeah. All right. So some lady calls for gang members to protect them against ICE agents. I thought this was an interesting clip as well. I'm not gonna lie. We watched the clip. Her last name is Martinez. I know that. Yeah. No.
Cholo, I'm going to pin your comment right there because ultimately the first 30 minutes of the live stream was about that. Now we're going to talk about the FBI investigating uh, Vice Mayor for urging gang members to retaliate against ICE. It's specifically Cynthia Gonzalez, the Vice Mayor of LA.
Yeah, And I love this lady too, man. Like they did a Please shut up, Flacco. What the hell? Watch. You live in Cutting? No. In Los Angeles, 18th Street, Florida. Yeah, where's the leadership at? Please shut up, Flacco. What the hell? Watch. You live in Cutting? No. In Los Angeles, 18th Street, Florida. Yeah, where's the leadership at? Because you guys are all about territory, and this is 18th Street, and this is Corrientes. You guys tag everything up, claiming hood. And now that your hood's being invaded by the biggest gang there is, they're gonna keep out of you. It's everyone else who's not about the gang life that's out there protesting and speaking up.
Yes, stupid ass. Because if they go out there and speak up, guess what happens? The same department that you're running in LA that harass them, that put investigations on them, that make fun of them behind everybody else behind closed doors, they can't be part of the protest because if they are, they're going to attract negative attention that they don't want.
Out there like fighting our turn, protecting our turn, protecting our people. And like, where you at? Bien calladito, bien calladito, todos los choritos. I'm like, dude, they're running them up all up in your on your streets, on your. Lady so tight, bro. And peace.
Yeah, they're running amok up in your streets. Hey, you need to go out there and you need to go fight for the Rasa. Hey, even though I'm locking up half of the Rasa in LA. Shut your ass up. Shut your ass up. Man, man, she's trying to get young Mexican kids to go crash out on behalf of her own political agenda. Damn it, there's no audio. Damn it, there's no audio. Okay, now there's audio. Okay, now there's audio. Now there's audio. All right. Okay, now there's audio. All right, now there's audio. Man, fuck you. Oh my god, I don't want to curse. I don't want to curse. Sorry. I don't mean to curse, but I was so mad that the audio wasn't on. Okay, so now the audio's on, right? The audio is on and popping. Okay. Okay, so audio's gone, man. Okay, Fresh Mellinger says the Supreme Court limited the ability of federal judges to block executive actions throughout the country through nationwide injunctions. Huge win for America. Okay, so I'm going to pin that comment right there because that does kind of relate to this particular subject matter at hand right now. Okay, so let's go back to Cynthia Gonzalez.
Nice people trying to do the thing. Arrest this bitch today. Trying to claim no. For what? This is sarcasm. She's a criminal. Trying to like help out. She get by one of the leaders of Florentia. You done boss? She get that part. Okay, yeah, like Brandon first. Go ahead, Brandon. No, go ahead. I talk a lot. No. It's yours. I've been running I ran the views up to 5,000. Basically, she incited. Right, because we all agree on again. When I heard this, and she said we out here protesting and speaking out. Where y'all at? She's asking for gangs to come and speak up, but people who are just biased towards gangs, her gangs, and automatically she's asking gang members to shoot and kill. That's what she was asking. No, bro. Gangs, do not show me one gang in the history of gangs that expressed their dissatisfaction through peaceful protest. It does not happen. Have you ever saw the movie Gangs of New York? Listen, the lady is calling on gangs to protect. She said, protect your hood. Bro, this is obviously sarcasm. If you can't see that, bro, you're acting smooth brain right now.
All right, you know what? That's a good point right there, right? One of the gentlemen here, I believe this gentleman right here in the black sweater, he says that she's obviously speaking out of sarcasm. I think I believe him on that, right? Although asking gang members to protect their community doesn't necessarily mean going out shooting down federal agents or anything like that. It doesn't necessarily mean that. What it means is that, hey, you know what? Get out there and join the protest with everybody. The problem is you can't ask these gang members to go protest when it could potentially put them in a hot light that they don't want to be in, right? A spotlight that is not necessary for whatever it is that they have going on.
I mean, she obviously had a couple drinks because she's a little bit slurred. Yeah. And she's expressed her true feelings. And the reason I say she's really calling for that is because you have had several Hispanic leaders in LA come off as militant. There was another fat lady in LA who was talking about we're strategic and they know how we move and they're talking like they're generals in a freaking battle. No, bro. What she's saying is like she's basically making fun of everybody because they're talking about you got to protect the hood, got to protect this and that, and then when the ICE rates, she's just calling them out, bro. This is sarcastic. This is obviously, bro. The mayor of the city right now.
Okay, so that's a very good point. There is a certain level of sarcasm to that. That's a very good point. There is a level of sarcasm to that I think should be taken into consideration. So yeah, okay, let's.
Next to her, Huntington Park. So you want to take this lady? Like the mayor, listen. The mayor of the city next to her, Huntington Park, literally said he's ordering the police to intercept ICE agents and verify their identity if he sees their cars with California exempt plates. Oh, because they're running around with masks on. ICE notifies every city when they're going to be running operations in your city. These Hispanic.
Not all the time. Not all the time. He says that ICE agents communicate with the city. Not all the time. There's a good chance there's a lot of ICE raids where they're not cooperating with the local law enforcement, and that's primarily the biggest problem of that situation.
Hispanic leaders are running interference for criminals, and they're trying to obstruct justice. It's obvious they've been doing it for the past couple of months. She is just the latest person to do it and call for these gangs to go after ICE agents. It's all sarcasm until someone gets killed. That's all well and cool, but here's the whole point, and this is the main reason why I went out there beyond coverage for no jumper and all this.
So if you've purchased a faulty car in California and won a huge check like I've got here, here's what you do. Use this.
Oh, wait, lunch? Let me explain to you. Yeah. Didn't smoke one out. Let me explain. I ain't a smoker of ops. You feel me? I'm a spreader of truth and words. You feel me? And I'm the street general. You don't smoke ops. And I'm gonna break it down straight like this, right? Okay. This is Los Angeles. We know where the fuck we're at. We know whose people this land has belonged to for thousands of years. Is you talking? Yeah, about the Mexicans killed it. You ain't gonna come out
You ain't gonna come out here and try to shut down homies and momentum and get people's families the fuck out of here. I ain't tripping on Donald Trump's little immigration law.
Can I ask you a question?
No, I'm talking right now, player. Respectfully, you feel me? Like, hey, I'm gonna let y'all know like this. I don't give a fuck about none of that. But you ain't coming out here. You ain't coming out here and breaking apart families.
Nigga, they out here doing it.
People that are bit. Because the people that are, and we gonna let our nuts hang. Who we? We gonna the human.
I actually have a question for
people in Los Angeles. People not really from here like that, bro. Because it's not just about one race, bro. It's not just about one fucking race. We know what it is. Everybody, all races out here, we all rock in accordance with each other. If you're really from here and really respect the land and respect the soil, you know what it is. We would never let that happen to anybody. Any of our Korean brothers, any of our black brothers, any of our Hispanic brothers. We're not fucking with it, bro. You're not coming out here.
Yeah, look, Lush, that's all good in retrospect when it comes to rhetoric or when it comes to feel good sentences or this and that. The reality is there's a lot of racial tension in LA, right? And there's a good percentage of black folks that did not join the protests in regards to the ICE raids because let's just be honest, there's a lot of black and brown problems in California, and this idea that we're all united or this and that, I don't know if that's a reality, right? I don't know how true that is, at least not for all people, right? For some people, there's a lot of beef between Mexicans and blacks, not just on the gangbanging side, but just on the regular normal side of things. But all right, let's continue on and hear what Lush has to say.
Here and getting people out of here, breaking down the dynamics of our city. So what? Yeah, we corrupt. So what? We against the system. So what? We different. This is Los Angeles. Move your ass to Arkansas and fall in line if you don't like it. You feel me? We out here for the fucking reason because we want to be in the most progressive place as ahead of the curve in all aspects and logically and politically.
In slang terms,
why must you live here? If not, why the you live here for real?
Does this mean we're not going to serve at Starbucks after this rush?
But no, we're going to Starbucks. I'm just saying.
Wait, okay, so you think that like every single illegal immigrant needs to be completely thrown out, right?
Even the black ones.
So everyone, okay. Do you think that
He said even the black ones, even the black illegal immigrants need to be kicked out. And this is a black dude saying that.
Are you against like?
By the way, everybody, this guy Brandon right here, he's a jiu-jitsu black belt, by the way, right? So if there's anybody in no jumper that can fight, it is this brother right here. So just keep that in perspective.
By case basis,
it's got good ground
game.
Maybe
like reform and create paths of citizenship.
I'm against all that
are like not criminal.
I'm against that
because I don't know, like the way you said it, you give.
Listen, bro. At this point,
he's only patriotic when convenient. Because if he was really patriotic, he would understand what the Statue of Liberty says.
At first,
we've already abandoned it. Yes, he's more interested in protecting Israel's rights.
Thank you, Brandon.
He's more interested in protecting Israel's rights.
Thank you for answering Brandon. Thank you for answering Brandon's question. This is my situation. Hispanic, and I'm gonna pick on Mexican people right now. Mexican people will fight to the death.
Why only Mexican though?
Just for this particular moment.
Because he's from Long Beach.
No, that's not. I see you always start.
So for those of you that don't understand what he's saying, this guy right here, Brandon, the jiu-jitsu black belt, okay, he's from Long Beach, okay? And something I know a little bit about, right? Long Beach has problems with many Mexican gangs, right? In particular, they fight the Asian gangs and the black gangs, and then the black gangs and Asian gangs gang up with each other to fight the Mexicans. You understand what I'm saying? So I hope that shout outs to Isham Talk. Much love to you, my man. Shout out to everybody in the Arab world, in the Gulf world, and North Africa, and all of that.
Race. I'm going to say about the Mexicans because Mexicans fight tooth and nail to keep South American immigrants out of their own country. When Joe Biden was letting...
That's a very good point. That is a very good point. A lot of these Latin American countries are fighting tooth and nail to get rid of other immigrants to come into their countries, right? Like, for example, the Mexicans, they don't want any Costa Ricans or any Hondurans or any of that to come through their border. So they fight tooth and nail to keep them out, right? It was only America up until Joe Biden that, you know, they didn't really care too much about these particular topics at hand. But yeah.
South American immigrants coming to our country, criminals, rapists. Potentially, no, they be out there getting cracking. They be out there, am I wrong? They be out there getting cracking. Stop filibustering.
By the way, guys, everybody, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and let's continue on with this great chat that we have going on. FBI investigating Cali mayor, the Los Angeles vice mayor for urging gang members to retaliate against ICE, talking about Joe Rogan snitching on the Liver King, and we're also going to talk about UFC 317. And by the way, speaking of UFC 317, I have a video out for UFC 317, full card prediction. I urge you guys to take a look at right after this live stream, or watch it together as we are watching this as well.
Listen, so what I'm saying is, when Joe Biden opened up them borders, and Joe Biden was like letting all types of people, even including potentially deadly Iranian terrorist cells into this country, I saw Hispanic communities like, yeah, let them in. We'll take them. Little village in Chicago.
Wait. If you were detained at...
Okay, he's talking about Chicago. Let's hear what he has to say on this one.
Mexican people in South Central. Those were not showing.
Those are not just Mexican people.
They were not
Venezuelan migrants.
When they don't want those people to come into Mexico, that tells me that they recognize the potential threat that those people represent. When it came to them people coming into when those people came into America, they were just like, we don't care as long as the number of Latinos go up. All I'm saying is, we're all Americans. We're all Americans. We should all be vested in the safety of America for all our children. And I felt like that.
Okay, well, you know what? That's a reasonable take on the part of Brandon from No Jumper to say that, right? Very reasonable take. But all right, let's continue on with this one.
They placed race over their nationality in that instance, and it made us all less safe.
Who placed race over their nationality? So
Mexicans, Hispanic people in general, I think.
So,
and even some black people too.
I do think that like Hispanic people need to kind of like, again, see how not to alienate like other people, just because like when you throw like riots and like that, and like when you go to the protests and you like start rioting and like it just makes everyone fucking.
Who's rioting? Is it Mexicans rioting? Because you know what I saw, bro? I see a bunch of Antifa ass ultra left weirdos, bro. That's the fuckers that are rioting. Throw rocks at them. They're predominantly white, fool. And you know what?
Yeah, that's a good point, right? Why is it that the majority of the protesters are white, right? Think about this. So the vice mayor is urging gang members to retaliate against ICE agents, okay? Because the gang members are not even involved in the protest. Black folks are also not involved in the protest because I told you about the black and brown relations going on in California. It's not the same black and brown relations that they have in the East Coast or in Miami or in Florida or anywhere else in the United States, right? And then on top of that, you're asking for other people to join in that ultimately did not join in, because let's say you are an illegal immigrant. Are you really going to go out there and protest while you're an illegal immigrant, while you're potentially targeted just based on, X, Y, and Z? G-Force International, shout out to you, Bureau of Combat Science. If you don't understand white supremacy, racism, what it is and how it works, everything else you understand will only confuse you. Nellie Fuller Jr. Okay, shout out to G-Force International, Bureau of Combat Science. Wow, that's a very interesting name, man. Very interesting name. Do you have a YouTube channel by any chance, G-Force? And if so, let me know what part of the world you are from. If not, let me know what part of the world you are from anyway, because you are welcome here regardless. So shout out to you. I'm going to pin that comment right there, G-Force International. So G-Force International's comment gets paid. So that's a very interesting. Let me read that again, okay? If you do not understand white supremacy, racism, what it is and how it works, everything else you understand will only confuse you. Nellie Fuller Jr. Neely Fuller Jr. Okay.
All right, you know what, the Mexicans, damn, I see more Mexican cops than I see anything else.
That's how they do it, right? You see, and now
And y'all try to trick black folks into coming to pass the blame off on us.
What is you talking about, bro?
Right there. White people.
No one's blaming black folks for anything.
No, I'm saying white folks are outside protesting on y'all behalf, and the first thing you do is say, worse than me. Is say the white people
You guys both suck.
are the ones that are rioting and fucking. Y'all's calling black folks to come outside and protest, so y'all can say, see, no, it's the black folks who's rioting. Nah, hell nah, bro. We did not. I ain't falling for it, nigga.
All right, so a very interesting conversation by No Jumper. Now, look, a lot of people give No Jumper a lot of flack for being a culture vulture. Obviously, it's owned by Adam 22, and there's a lot of controversies behind it. But make no mistake, man, they know how to put personalities together, and with those personalities that they bring together, they know how to bring conversation together. Now, let's get to the next topic at hand, right? I know we're jumping around in different topics and different scenarios or this and that. Okay, wait. Let's take a look at this news article real quick regarding Cynthia Gonzalez, the vice mayor. Okay, so here it goes.
Cynthia Gonzalez, the vice mayor of Cudahy, has since deleted the video on social media telling gang members to defend their territory from ICE.
Eyewitness News reporter Josh Haskell joins us live with the latest on what the city of Cudahy and FBI are now saying. Josh?
Well, David and Michelle, people here in Cudahy, they tell me they are scared, tensions are high. So when a vice mayor sends a message that isn't aimed for her constituents, it's not aimed for ICE agents, but for the local gangs. Those we've spoken to say it's made the situation worse.
Whoever's the leadership over there, just your members in order.
A shocking message about the ICE raids posted on social media by an elected official, Cynthia Gonzalez, who serves as the vice mayor of the small city of Cudahy, which is located in southeast LA County. The message isn't for the federal government. It's for some of the most violent street gangs in Southern California.
I want to know where all the cholos are at in Los Angeles. 18th Street, Florencia. Don't be trying to claim no block, no nothing. If you're not showing up right now, trying to help out.
The video, which is over 1 minute long, has since been taken down. The FBI can't confirm or deny an investigation into Gonzalez's words.
Okay, so they say that the FBI can't deny or confirm investigation into her words. I could tell you right now, okay, because, well, let me just say that I have some experience in this particular light, right? So what's going to happen is they're just going to come talk to you. They're going to say, hey, do you really mean this? Do you really mean that you're going to do this, that, and the other? And the fact that she's a vice mayor, she's a public servant, they're going to give her a little bit of leeway. Like, yeah, you know what? You're a contributor to America. You're a contributor to our communities, our cities, and this and that. So we're going to lay off on you a little bit. And you know what? It's just political banter by the end of the day. And by the end of it all, it's not like she has any power amongst these gangs. If anything, these gangs hate her guts because it's her police department that go out of their way to investigate these people, to harass them, this, that, and the other. And I highly doubt that they're going to move on her behalf. But let's continue on.
But ABC7 legal analyst Josh Herder believes the vice mayor's call to action may have crossed the legal line.
When you're dealing with a political leader calling upon criminal street gangs to take action, that takes on a far more sinister meaning and perhaps even criminal meaning behind it. I mean, it is one thing to say, local people of the neighborhood, stand up for yourselves. It's another thing to actually call out the names of different criminal street gangs and ask them to protect their neighborhood.
In a statement, the city of Cudahy told ABC7 that they're aware of recent comments made by Vice Mayor Cynthia Gonzalez on social media. The comments made by the vice mayor reflect her personal views and do not represent the views or official position of the city of Cudahy.
Her talking about gang violence and bringing them to do, stuff like that, and I think it's horrible. We're already going through it as, ICE supporting people, and people are feeling it and sensitive about it, and then, saying that is just, it's kind of sad.
And we reached out to Gonzalez. We have not heard back. Just last month, UCLA hired Gonzalez as their new director of the Principal Leadership Institute. And 2 weeks ago, Gonzalez appeared with other LA County mayors alongside Mayor Bass at Los Angeles City Hall to discuss the ICE raids. Live in Cudahy, Josh Haskell, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Josh, thank you for that report.
All right, so I know Jesse on Fire is live right now regarding Joe Rogan makes statements as Liver King ordered to undergo a mental health evaluation. Let's hear what he has to say about this.
Me and him are going to hatch this thing out. We're going to fight. We're going to fight. Rogan's in Vegas. I just I should have known that, but it didn't. Shab talked to him. He's in Vegas. He's not even in fucking Austin. And I mean, it should have been.
Yeah, look, that's a good point, right? He was on his way to Vegas, and yet Liver King was going to threaten Joe Rogan.
He's not even here. He's doing this whole thing, and Rogan and his entire team are in fucking Vegas, dude. What an idiot. All right.
Gonna maybe express something else. Something else. Ask me what the password is to Wi-Fi. I can't wait to share it. So, good morning, primals. What I'm doing, do with me. Get the early morning sun through the eyes on the face. I'm just gonna get the bare feet connected, anchored, grounded into the earth. About to go do that with the pops right now.
See, guru. You know, here's what I do. Here's what you should do. And you're like, hey, if I do the things that you tell me to do, will I be able to be what you are now? Because that's now my life's aspiration. I want to do exactly what you're doing right now. Said no one.
Down there, that's where the government go to play down there at the water. They like to do a stick champion game. That's what we're about to do. And we're going to go somewhere today here in Austin. If anybody knows where Seth Rogen's, the other version of him that rhymes with blow, if anyone knows where his family's going to be today, if you could let...
Hey, the end. Like, hey, guy.
Yeah, so he's asking where his family is going to be at. I mean, that's a little dangerous, right?
Restraining order. He has a restraining order against you, obviously, and anyone in his family. You went on Instagram and said, if anyone knows where Joe Rogan's family is going to be, like those words came out of your mouth. Okay? Like, it doesn't matter where you're going, dude. It doesn't matter what your next sentence is going to be. If you can't put together that you've been in police custody, you have an active restraining order that forbids you from talking about him or his family. You say the words, if anyone knows where his family's going to be, you're like, bro, you are on fucking Pluto right now. Okay? Your connection to what is actually happening is lost in a fucking oblivion. You can't say that under any circumstances whatsoever. Okay? His wife, dude, they're there. Like, they're there. Now check this out. Okay, so here's whoops, not this one. Where is it? Oh, I don't know what this is right now. Like, this is from let's see, this would have been at around 3 o'clock yesterday. So there's nothing really to it except that he's going through a metal detector. It seems like this is probably some law enforcement shit, given the fact that he's wearing a fucking ankle monitor. And he's wearing a fucking bulletproof a body armor carrier. Okay? He's going into a police station, which is, I mean, I assume that's what this is. Okay? Given that he has an ankle monitor and it very much looks like law enforcement, he's wearing a fucking body armor carrier around it. Like, dude, how about not that outfit? You know, like, how about just not something that indicates that you, even if you have no plates in it, okay, you are currently under a restraining order because you've made threats to one of the most famous people on earth. You come to interact with the cops and you're all, what should I wear? Hey, should I wear the Jordans or the boots? She's like, I think the boots. He's all, you think I should wear my body armor carrier? She's like, what would the purpose of that be? He's like, just so people know that I am equipped with body armor, you know, in case I need it for anything, you know, this week. Hey, where's Joe Rogan's family gonna be? You're all, dude, who is making these decisions for you? Like, do you have no one on your team? It's like, because honestly, like, you could lay out, so like, if I was on his team and I was responsible for like helping him make decisions, and he's like, okay, so here's what I'm thinking I'm gonna do. Okay, I do have to go check in with them because I have to check in with them each day. Now that I'm in town, if I want to stay up, check in each day. You know, I think I'm gonna wear a body armor carrier. I'd be like, yeah, no, you're not. Okay, do you not understand why you're wearing that ankle monitor? They've determined that you are a threat to Joe Rogan, okay, and his family. What outfit could possibly indicate more that you are an actual threat? Okay, like, it's really hard to do. Like, it's actually difficult to think of clothing or articles of clothing you could put on that would further make you seem like a threat if you're going to go deal with law enforcement. But a fucking body armor carrier, that'll do it, dude. It's unbelievable, dude. Like, what are you doing? Why are you wearing that?
Greetings.
Yeah, no, you do. First thing today. That's what.
Dude, that lady is way too chill right there. Okay, now obviously I know, you know, he doesn't go on a shooting spree here or we would have heard about it. But that security person is 100 times too fucking chill right there.
Yeah.
If you know who that guy is, you know what
Look,
he's
I'm
doing.
going to show you what Jesse is talking about right here.
Your security, you know, you're a fucking metal detector. He's buzzing it, and he has a body armor carrier on his chest. Like, you need to have already called back up immediately. Like, there, who could look more suspicious that might turn into an active shooter than that fucking guy who's setting off your metal detector with a body armor plate on?
That is kind of weird.
I mean, it's like,
No, it's not. It's like this. Is that what it's getting? Yeah, that's it. There's no medals in that coffee.
okay, you guys get the point, right?
Okay, so
There
Marty
you
Miller.
go.
Marty Miller says, I had a question. My opinion of Jesse after you said you liked him, but after reading those comments on his show, your shop, it's safe to say a lot of people feel the same way I do.
I know this is the one because
yeah, it's a good point, Marty Miller. I want to ask you something, kind of similar to this situation, right?
is on Liver King's list. And he's still like, bro,
you ever had a family member like Marty Miller or anybody out there, right? Anybody out there that can answer this question?
100%.
You ever had a family member that you
Yes,
liked,
absolutely.
but
That's
the other
exactly
family members didn't, or maybe you had a family member
No, I
that
mean,
you loved,
does that mean
but
he's
maybe
not
your
going
friends
to
didn't, or
do
had a
something
friend that you
completely
loved,
deranged if
but
he didn't
maybe
run
your
into Rogan?
other
Absolutely not.
friends
He has no
didn't
chance
feel
of getting to
affection
Rogan
towards it
under any
way.
circumstances. Shaw
Well,
made me
this is sort of what
very
Jesse on
confident of
Fire
that
is
yesterday.
in that
We talked
regard,
about it on
right?
the other show.
I understand.
It kind of goes through like what Rogan
Sorry. Sorry about that. How about now? Is my audio better? How about now? Hold on. Let me make sure that I have my audio on right here. Sorry about that. How about now? Is my audio better? Okay, the audio is okay. Just had to check on that real quick. So the audio is better. Okay. So before the audio got weird, Marty, what I was asking was, you ever had a family member that you loved, but the rest of your family members didn't? You ever had a friend that you had affection for, but maybe your other friends didn't feel the same way or didn't have, the same type of affection towards, right? This is kind of what Jesse on Fire is, right? Well, when you ask Marty Miller or anybody that loves a particular family member, you ask them, well, why do you love that person? Well, it's X, Y, and Z because this person shows me loyalty or this and that. What I'm basically trying to say, Marty, is that, for example, I think you're a pretty loyal listener of mine, right? You're always in every one of my live stream shows. You're always, helping out. You're one of my top moderators. So in that regard, you show loyalty, right? Well, guess what? If somebody was going to say to me, hey, I don't like Marty Miller for one reason or another, and I don't know why anybody would say that, right? You're one of the nicest people I know, so I don't know why anybody would say it, but let's say they do, right? On a hypothetical setting. Listen, bro, I would defend you night and day because I come from a culture of loyalty, right? It may be a dangerous culture of loyalty, but it's a culture that is forged in loyalty, period. So that's just how we operate in the world of California, right? We operate in a loyalty system, right? Now, that person doesn't necessarily have to be part of our section. They don't necessarily have to be part of our gang. They don't necessarily have to be part of the dojo or the MMA team that I train with. But rest assured, if somebody is going to, if somebody is going to be my homie, my ally, my comrade, I'm going to ride for you till the end. And, Jesse on Fire, he's not going to be liked by everybody because he's a famous, look at it like this, right? Jesse on Fire has 451,000 subscribers. Okay, so almost 500,000 subscribers. How you doing, Zachary? Shout out to you, my man. And out of those 451,000 people, a lot of those people are not going to like him, and it's just natural because you know what? When you have that type of magnitude of attention, not everybody is going to like you. Watch, Marty Miller. Watch when we start growing the channel, right? You're going to start to notice that there's going to be a lot of people that are not going to like me, and then they're going to be asking you, well, why is it that you like Kyrie so much? You know what I mean? Why is it that you support Kyrie or this, that, and the other? And I tell you what, I'm in full confidence in knowing that you're going to tell them off and say to them, well, you know what? This is not the Kyrie that I know. You may have a different view of who Kyrie is and how he acts towards you, but how he acts towards me as Marty Miller, is nothing but positive. And so that's sort of what it is with Jesse. Now, look, here's the thing. Marty Miller doesn't like Jesse on Fire, and that's perfectly fine. Because I tell you what, man, in the streets, I've had guys that don't like one guy, and I get caught up in a crossfire of guys beefing with each other. And then, I either have to pick a side or either I have to be neutral. And then oftentimes there are times where guys do make me pick a side, and then there are times where people are a little bit more emotionally stable like myself, right? Emotional, intelligently stable like myself, who would look at it and say, you know what? I understand why this guy has a relationship with this guy. I may not like him, but it doesn't mean I'm going to stop being friends with him on that reason alone. Zachary says, I had to unsubscribe to Jesse. Let me know why. Let me know what made you unsubscribe to Jesse, Zachary, if you could elaborate on the comment section below. Marty Miller says, I just agree with you on so much that I thought maybe I was off on my opinion of Jesse. No, listen, you have every right to feel the way you feel about Jesse. Now, look, here's the thing, right? So far, it's very difficult for me to have anything against Jesse, simply because, look, put it from my perspective, right? This guy has sent me super chat. He sent me a super chat on Thanksgiving Day, because you know how it is. Thanksgiving Day, a lot of content creators are not really, up there, making content. They're not doing live streams. So one day I did a live stream just like this one, and Jesse on Fire came on and said, you know what, here, great job, buddy. Here's, $20 for a super chat. And even, man, you know what? Even if Jesse only gave me $1, like the fact that a super chat or even a chat came from Jesse on Fire was enough for me to be like, wow, you know what? One of the big dogs is out there endorsing me. So, I'm going to get down on that. Here's another example, right? You guys know Guillermo Argentino, right? He's a YouTuber from LA. He's an ally of mine, right? But you know who he's also allies with? He's also allies with MMA Guru. Now, is MMA Guru one of my favorite guys in the world of MMA streaming? My answer is no. Do I respect MMA Guru for what he's contributed to the MMA world? Absolutely. I absolutely respect MMA Guru for that. But we are opposed in many ideas, okay? We are opposed in philosophical ideas, and we're opposed in lifestyle ideas. And although I may have some opposition against MMA Guru, I'm not going to have opposition against a friend of mine or a YouTube ally of mine who's also allies with him. TJ Peterson, my man. Shout out to TJ Peterson right there. Everybody give a warm welcome to TJ Peterson. Tap it in, bro. Is this the TJ Peterson that I know? Okay. Let me know on the comment section below if this is the TJ Peterson I know. Because TJ, you got a very common name. I don't know if this is the TJ Peterson that I know, but there's one TJ Peterson that I know, and that dude is an absolute hero, to say the least, right? To my fellow Marine brother right here. Absolutely, bro. All right, so it is TJ Peterson. It is TJ Peterson, man. All right, man, this is great. Bro, I love it when I got some old school homies of mine tapping in here and all that. So yeah, Marty Miller, you understand what I'm saying, right? Obviously you're loyal to me as a supporter and as one of my moderators, but also you don't like Jesse on Fire, and that's okay. But man, Jesse on Fire is my he's an ally of mine because he's endorsed me, he's promoted me, and that's just how we are in California, man. We run by the loyalty system, and there's no one in the world that is more loyal than California G's, and that's just how we get down out here. You're gonna have to ride for your allies, just like TJ Peterson, bro. This guy, I don't want to give too much information on this guy because he's not a public figure, he's not a YouTuber, he doesn't put himself out there. But let me just say that this is a longtime ally of mine, and that's just how we get down. You know what I mean? If you're loyal to someone, you're going to be with them through thick and thin. And Marty Miller says, I just feel like he's a poser and he's full of shit lots of times. Okay, so I'll address that, right? Here's the thing about Jesse on Fire, right? He comes from the world of reality TV. A Fresh Melon Juice says, bro, are you black or Armenian? Am I black or Armenian? No, I'm half Arabic and half Pacific Islander. But black and Armenian, that's interesting, right? Yeah, there's a lot of Armenians, obviously, in the West Coast. They are a strong majority out here. They're deep in Glendale. They're also part of the gangbanging system, right? They got their own gangs, this and that. But I will say they emulate a lot of the Mexican style. Not you, the Peterson says bro all the time. Not you, the Peterson guy says bro all the time. You know what? I don't think TJ says that a lot in real life, though. I don't know, man. Well, we all do. We all say bro a lot, right? In England, they say bruv. Like when they're talking to you, they're like, hey, what's up, bruv? Or this and that and the other. You know what I mean? So yeah. Oh, let's hear what Jesse has to say here.
World-class jiu-jitsu, elite world-class striking against untrained opponent who is
Fresh Melon, she says 100% in the chat. Okay.
Shorter than that. Like this is it's fucking impossible. Okay. So there's no like, hey man, I want a heads up fight where like Rogan doesn't need to fight him to prove anything. And here's the thing: if Rogan did agree to fight him, who benefits? How does this help Rogan? Rogan's literally like Shab said to me yesterday, and I hadn't even really thought about this. Shab's like, he's probably one of the top 5 most famous people on earth. And I was like, that's true. Like, I mean, you got like Trump, Putin,
That is true. Joe Rogan is top 5 most famous man in the world.
So fucking famous that, that's why he needs so much security. People just stand next to him. They just literally stand next to him. There's tremendous value for their career. People probably fucking want shit from him.
Joe Rogan did visit Team Alpha Male one time, to train with us out here. And I don't know, at that time, he didn't have any bodyguards with him. There were no Navy SEALs or any, or at least we didn't see any of them. Maybe they were just hiding in the cut somewhere, and you know, you didn't know about it. So
he's like, "Hey, Joe, do this thing that benefits me. That you have not. We don't even know each other. Do this thing that's going to be great for me." And Rogan's like, "Fuck you, dude."
F15 says, "Yo, I heard Joe Rogan died." Oh man, F15, don't do that. Don't do that, bro. Don't do that, man. Listen, do not do that. You know, every MMA chat that I see from UFC to elsewhere, they always say that Joe Rogan died or RIP Joe Rogan. What is up with that? Yeah, that's played out F15. That's what I'm talking about, Marty Miller. Yo, what is up with this? Yo, listen, man, this is bad because if something was to happen to Joe Rogan, uh, I'm telling you, man, listen, it's gonna be like the boy who cried wolf. How is it training with him? Uh like it was training with any other people. You know, Joe Rogan really goes out of his way to make sure that you treat him like he's everyone else, right? I remember one guy, he was showing us a move, right? He was, you know, doing a little jujitsu tutorial, and one guy mentioned, he said something to the effect of like, you know, hey, are you allowed to do this? Like, you know, meaning like, are you allowed to give another team, you know, advice because you're a commentator, as some sort of like hinting towards a conflict of interest of some sort, right? Well, the reality is that Joe Rogan flat out said to that guy, I forgot who the guy was, but he said something to the effect of was like, hey, dipshit, listen, I'm not a fighter. I could say and teach anyone, whoever I want, whenever I want, right? So, you know, Joe Rogan is a very direct and honest guy, and that's sort of the same thing that I got out of him. And this was like back in 2013 or 14 or something like that. Did you get to grapple with him? No, I didn't. He was doing more of like a tutorial with us, right? You know, I remember TJ Dillashaw was there. Uriah Faber was there. Chad Mendez was there when Chad Mendez was in his prime, just right before Chad Mendez was going to fight Conor McGregor, like a couple of years prior. So,
talk about a guy's relationship with his wife. I will only say that she seems like she seems like she loves him for sure. Like, I mean, and I mean that like as a ride or die girl gets like is aces with me. But if I'm just like kind of watching, she doesn't seem like she's like a very confrontational person. And like this, to be able to like jump in and interject yourself into a situation like this with a guy like him, your tolerance for confrontation needs to be fucking high, like really high, you know? And she just doesn't seem like the kind of person who is wired like that at all. And I don't mean that as a negative, positive, whatever. It's just
Fresh Melon Juice says, I did BJJ for fun, but got bored after receiving my coral belt. What is a coral belt? Do you mean blue belt? Or I'm trying to understand what the reference is to coral, or if that's some sort of jiu-jitsu terminology I missed out on. But yeah.
Yeah, that surprises me whatsoever, obviously, you know. Because this is like one of those things. It's like either, hey, Big Red, what's up, dog? Yeah, he's so okay. So the facts, and this is not a stunt as much people think. Well, what I'm saying is, I'm not disagreeing with you as it relates to it being a stunt. What I'm saying is, it is a stunt in his mind. Like he thinks that this is some kind of stunt. But he has lost his fucking mind. So he, you know, his interpretation of what he's doing is like going through a filter of scramble brain. You know what
I mean? Marty Miller says, sounds like you weren't too committed to it then. Okay, yeah, he's talking to Fresh Melon Juice says, I was busy, so I couldn't take BJJ seriously, you know. Yeah, man, that's the thing, right? You do have to take it seriously, but then you also have to put in a certain amount of time. But if you want to get really fast at jiu-jitsu, go every day as much as possible, if not twice a day if you could.
Ether, thank you for the super chat, my dude. I never saw Liver King angry in any of these videos, which means I think he's in a false reality. My boy needs therapy. He needs therapy at the minimum. But
all right, I'm going to look up coral belt right now.
for a long time, like so that they flush the drugs out. You know, I think Joe will address this with concern for him and all. That's exactly what he did. That's exactly what Joe Rogan did. I talked about that earlier. That's literally exactly what he did.
Oh, okay,
Said,
okay. Coral Belt.
He seems like he's very unstable, and he probably needs help. And I was commending Joe for that because I think that's a really good look, dude. You know. But I agree. False reality.
All right. So with that in mind, guys, I'm gonna call it quits for today. I'm gonna be coming back with a live stream later on tonight. I hope you guys enjoy this. I really wanted to make a video out of this, but I think if you want to see or look at my take on Joe Rogan snitching on the Liver King, start from the very beginning of this live stream. So let's do a little recap on what we had talked about today, okay? Just a little recap of our adventure today. So we talked about Joe Rogan, why he snitched on Liver King. Also, what led up to the arrest of Liver King, making terrorist threats to Joe Rogan, obviously because Joe Rogan called him out for being a roid head. But Joe Rogan, I think he called the cops. Now, I know a lot of people say that, well, you know what? The cops may have seen this. It's very high profile. Let's go do something about it. Look, it's all within the discretion of the victim, right? So that's something you have to understand, right? So that is my different take on this matter. We also talked about Tupac talking about police brutality. Also, we talked about the vice mayor of LA inciting gangs to fight the federal government. And by the way, FBI investigation is underway for Vice Mayor Cynthia Gonzalez. And then we went on to talk about UFC 317 briefly. If you want a full recap, or I'm sorry, a full analysis of UFC 317, I have a couple of videos out on that right now. I did a video on UFC 317 full card prediction. You guys check that out. Fresh Melon Juice says, I think you should do a video on the UFC Hall of Fame and how it's Dana White's buddy list. Ooh, okay. I may just do that. You know what? I'm going to pin that comment for that reason alone. Okay. So, yeah, man, thank you for that advice right there, Fresh Melon Juice. I will definitely take that into high consideration, right? Because obviously it is UFC International Fight Week, and a lot of that is predicated on what is going on with the Hall of Fame. So they are definitely going to have the Hall of Fame involved. Okay, so yeah, John Jones and his misdemeanor charges of G-Force. And just remember, Aki. Okay, just remember, Ak. Okay, yeah, I will remember to make that video. Yes. Okay, so guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. I will see you in the next one. And I will see you on the live stream tomorrow. I will be here, but please check out my video for the full card analysis of UFC 317. And by the way, I'm going to play the audio version of that right now. This has visuals included. If you want to see the videos, check it out. But for now, I'm going to play this last 40 minutes with this live stream. I'll see you in the next one, inshallah. And proclaim UFC 317 this weekend, International Fight Week, June 28, 2025. Will Charles Oliveira defeat the favorite Ilia Topuria? Well, many of Charles Oliveira's supporters seem to think season to doubt Charles. We have no. Hey, thank you for that, International G-Force. Shout outs to you, my man. Just wanted to send you final shout outs before I head out. Thank you for that. Enjoy the rest of this content right here. And you can catch this on audio, on video, visual form, but now you're catching it on audio form right here. My prediction for the whole UFC 317. Here we go. No reason to doubt him at all, but Ilia Topuria has been looking really good in his training. And by the way, it's the same fight day as Jake Paul versus Cesar Chavez Jr. Very interesting international fight week, to say the least. However, we're going to get to the reality of this fight and how this is going to go, the mistakes that Charles Oliveira has made in the past, and the unbeatable streak that Ilia Topuria has going on. Let's get to it. Now, just right before we get to the full card and the kicks and punches that deal with the main event and the co-main event, I want to say that I think it's a bit of a travesty that Ilia Topuria can't win the double championship, at least on the official basis. Now, he has said and proclaimed when and if he wins, he's going to hold 2 belts up, symbolizing that he was the 145 champion, whether current or not, and becoming the new 155 champion as that tradition that Conor McGregor started with holding 2 belts at once. Although the ones before him who were double champions, they did it in a way where they did it at separate moments of times in their careers. This is similar to that, or maybe it's not similar to that. We're going to get to the bottom of all of that. But in the meantime, yes, a lot of people out there do believe that Charles Oliveira has a chance to win this fight. But how? Look at Ilia Topuria. He just looks unstoppable right now. However, if you look at Charles Oliveira, has there ever been a moment in time where you could doubt that this guy could beat anybody at any time? Now, look, I understand that he makes mistakes. I understand that he's vulnerable to a lot of different types of shots. I understand that he's even had a reputation in his career where he quit quite a few times, right? Has sort of some mental issues in that particular regard, right? But the reality is, you never know how a fight is going to play out till the day of. So with that in mind, let's get to the full card analysis of this whole entire event. Let's take a look at what the possible fights Islam Makhachev has, okay? Okay, so JDM is next. What is he looking to do after that? He's looking to do the winner between Charles Oliveira and Ilia Topuria, because he wants to be a 2-time 155 champion and become a double champion for the first time by moving down, because he's already been down at 155 as a champion and has defended his belt multiple times. Now, what he's trying to do is become a double champ via being the 170 champ reigning title holder. So that is the plan of Islam Makhachev. So what that means is that he's going to take on the winner. If he beats JDM, he takes on the winner next week. And by the way, with that in mind, it leads us into the next segue, which is the full card of UFC 317. I know we got a UFC card going on this weekend already. I did a coverage on that. I urge you to take a look at the live stream that I did this morning, because I give you a full breakdown of that whole entire, well, not the full breakdown of that card, but a good portion of that card. But what I'm going to do right now is the full card of UFC 317, and we're going to get right to it as soon as I put this right on the description below. Okay, so right here, we're going to put right into 45 minutes. Okay, 45 minutes is the full card. UFC 317. All right. So this is the full card for UFC 317. Let's take a look at this card, okay? And by the way, a lot of these matchups right now have just been recently made because they were really just trying to fill in this card while concentrating on the Abu Dhabi cards, which, by the way, is a whole different story and a whole different time. So here we go. UFC 317 right now. Okay, let's also see if we can... all right, so... here we go, UFC 317. From the very beginning of the card, you got Jonah Dennis taking on Justin Tafa. Okay, 7-5 Justin Tafa versus 8-1 DNS. Now, who am I going to go for with this one? I'm going to go with DNS. Marty Miller says both McGregor. Shout outs to Marty Miller for that comment right there. So, Jonah Diaz is 8-1. Justin Tafa has a 50-50 record. What does that tell me? That tells me that here's an athletic and prospect that really really doesn't have a lot of losses, right? He has one loss in his career. Let's take a look at what exactly that is, right? So at 6'4", 258 pounds, the only loss that he's had was his last fight was against Myson Tybura. So he was on a hot streak before this fight. Whereas with Justin Taffa, keep in mind, has a 50-50 record, okay? So right here, loses to Myson Tybura. Before that, knocks out the former football player Austin Lane, beats up a bunch of nobodies, and then gets a decision against a no-namer, okay? Whereas, you take a look at Justin Taffa, I've told you this plenty of times, this guy has a 50-50 record, okay? With this 50-50 record, what do we have right here? A 2-fight losing streak. By the way, a loss to the same guy that Johannes Diaz just got a decision against also, okay? And in his last fight, he loses to Taliesin Teixeira, basically starches him. But he does beat Austin Lane, so they do have a common opponent. He has a controversial fight with Austin Lane, comes back, fights him again, literally with months, within a few months apart from each other, beats Parker Porter. By the way, very hard to say. Try saying his name 10 times, right? So this is a guy with a 50-50 record, taking on a prospect who, before this loss, was on a hot streak. So I'm going to go with Diaz on this one. Maybe even a first-round knockout. I'm going to say it's a first-round knockout for this one. So that is the early prelims for that one. How about this? Jack Hermanson versus RoboCop. Gregory Rodriguez, okay? 37 versus 33, 6'1" versus 6'2", 185, 77. So let's take a look at where they were just at recently in their career, okay? Jack Hermanson, longtime veteran, okay? Fighting out of both Oslo, Norway, and Sweden. So very interesting combination, right? Obviously in the Norway area has been developing MMA for quite some time. As I've told you guys earlier in the live stream, it is America that is really prevalent in developing MMA. Marty Miller says, I think I'd pick RoboCop on that one. Okay, so that's interesting. I'm going to go with Jack Hermanson. I'm going to tell you why. The reason why I'm going to go with Jack Hermanson is I think that there is a chance that he's going to out-wrestle him. He's done that to Joe Pfeiffer. He has great wrestling. He's got submission wrestling background, right? A very decorated grappler outside of MMA. So I'm going to go with him on this one by decision. Now, with RoboCop, okay, let's take a look at where RoboCop has been, okay? Gregory Rodriguez. So let's take a look at RoboCop. Where have you been? He got knocked out by Jared Cannonier. Before that, had a decision against Leroy Duncan. By the way, listen, here's the thing, right? Leroy Duncan, for as good as he is and a great prospect as he is not on the level of Jack Hermanson. Okay, and he struggled with Christian Leroy Duncan, right? He couldn't put him out. I understand Christian Leroy Duncan is very elusive and this and that, but, you know, yeah, man, Hermanson has a little bit of striking. So, Toxic Gameplay says, Kyrie, if someone ever hits you, I'm turning into Antonio Brown. Oh, wow, man, shout outs to you, my man. You know what I mean? That's what I'm talking about. Straight real loyalty right there to the max right there on the gang, on the set. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. So, and then prior to that, Gregory, he says Brad Tavares, okay? He beats Brad Tavares. That's a good win. He loses to Bruno Ferreira, okay? And I don't know, man. That's not a fight that Jack Hermanson wins. So, yeah, I'm going to give Jack Hermanson the decision on this one. Okay, so Viviana Araujo versus Tracy Cortez. I'm going to give this one to Tracy Cortez by decision, right? Obviously, this is not a fight where it's going to be heavy hitting. It's not going to be, it's not, yeah, they're not going to go to a finish, right? Okay, let's take a look at some last few fights of Tracy Cortez. Now, obviously, you've seen her on social media with Neon, sort of promoting her brand and this and that. Loses to Rose Namajunas. Not an easy fight, but you know what? Great experience on her part. Beats Jasmine Javinikius, beats Gato before that, beats Justin Kish. Has a win over Aaron Blanchfield by a split decision back in Invicta. Okay, so Araujo, Vivian Araujo. So, okay, so last fight, wins against Karen Silva. Before that, loses to Natalia Silva. And then Maya gets a win, decision against Amanda Ribas. You see the pattern, just all these decisions, especially at the highest level, right? So I'm gonna go with Cortez by decision on this one. No, you know what? Vivian Araujo. I think Araujo could win this one by out grappling her. So that's who I'm gonna go for. Marty Miller says, I'm curious about that too, Nubby. Oh, Nubby MMA says, yo, what's your thoughts on Oliveira versus Topuria? Oh, yes, we're going to get to that, so stay tuned, okay? I'm going in the order of the card. I think it's a hard pick against Topuria right now. Well, stay tuned because I definitely have a take on that one because we are about to head into the main card right now. Opening in the main card, you got Peyton Talbot taking on Felipe Lima. Okay, let's take a look at Felipe Lima because we know a lot about Peyton Talbot. Okay, he's supposed to be the top prospect for 135 right now, but Felipe Lima. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so Felipe Lima. Okay, coming off of a win against Miles Jones, has a win over Muhammad Nayef. Okay, rear naked choke, by the way. Okay, and that was in his UFC debut. He was in the Octagon. Let's see, was this for a championship? No, I don't think it was. Okay, but he has a unanimous decision win against Jonas Maric. Okay, all right, so he's got a pretty decorated regional career. All right, so Peyton Talbot, he's going to have a tough fight in his hands, okay? I like this one right here, okay? So let's take a look at Peyton Talbot. Where is Peyton Talbot right now in his career? Let's see here. So fighting out of Reno Combat Academy. By the way, a gym that I'm very much familiar with. By the way, that was also a gym that not only, I believe, Ryan Vader started with, but also I think Paige Van Zandt and then a whole bunch of other big names that they've had come out of that particular gym, right? Now Peyton Talbot is that guy, right? He loses to Hani Barcelos by decision, right? You've seen Hani Barcelos in his last fight. That's really no shame in that. I mean, probably one of the best wins of his career, right, against Cody Garbrandt. And once again, also Peyton Talbot. But now Peyton Talbot, before that, has a win over Cameron Simon, knocks him out. That was back in 2024. And then now has a 19-second win against, yeah, man, this kid is on a hot streak. You're going to have to give this one to him. I think that he wins this one by a decision. It's going to be a tough fight. I think these are two top prospects that may see each other in a title eliminator later down the road. So I think Peyton Talbot wins this one by decision. Yeah, I'm going to give this one to Peyton Talbot by a decision. I think there's going to be a lot of grappling exchanges to which will be on Peyton's side. I think that he's going to knock him down. A 50-50 fight. But how about this? another 50-50 fight, right? A lot of people are sleeping on some of these main card fights, right? Beneil Dariush, it's a 50-50 fight against Moicano. Now, Moicano obviously got a shot against Islam Makhachev as a late replacement, not really indicative much of anything. But prior to Islam Makhachev, he has a win over Benoit Saint-Denis. By the way, in Paris, in the hometown of Benoit Saint-Denis, the former French Special Forces soldier turned UFC fighter, gets a win over him in his own country. And then gets a win over Jalen Turner. And then Drew Dober. And then Brad Riddle. Before that, he loses a 5-round decision against Rafael dos Anjos when Rafael was really in his prime. He's sort of declining at this point, but not, in the way that he was in 2022. Leg kicking him, giving him a little bit of mercy on top of that. I mean, letting him coast on top of that, but he learned a lot from it. So the RDA fight, the Islam Makhachev fight, should not be indicative of this one. But other than that, man, it was a bit of a hot streak. But let's take a look at Beneil Dariush in his recent run, or maybe lack of run, because now he has a 2-fight losing streak, but not a bad losing streak, right? You see, having a losing streak in the UFC is not the same as having a losing streak in the regionals, right? Look at who he lost to. Armin Sarukian finishes him, and then Charles Oliveira also finishes him, which leads me to believe that Moicano may finish him, not early though. We'll have to work for it, but maybe somewhere in the 3rd round. So I'm going to go with Moicano by 3rd round decision. Okay? Now, next one. Joshua Van versus Brandon Royval. Okay, and Mr. C says on the comment section, Riddle, not Riddle, rhymes with Liddell. Okay, Riddle, okay. Riddell, okay, got it. Okay, so next one is Brandon Royval versus Joshua Van. Now, Joshua Van has been very active, right? A very inspirational story that came out of this kid, right? He said that in 2017, he saw Conor McGregor box Floyd Mayweather, and weirdly enough, a boxing match involving a UFC fighter is what led him to MMA, but also, I guess, his infatuation with both Mayweather and McGregor and wanting to be part of the circus. But on any regard, he's now part of the circus. All of a sudden, he's a veteran of the UFC now, getting all these wins, right? A rising star in the 125 division. By the way, a division that is yearning for stars and guys with some stories. So Joshua Van was born in Van Bao Tong in Chin State in Myanmar, okay, to a family of 5 siblings. And due to the SPD siege in Myanmar, his family had to relocate to Malaysia when he was 10 years old in search of better opportunities. Then he moved to Houston, Texas, and that's how he got into MMA and got into the UFC as a result of that. So only losses he's had against Charles Johnson, and then the other one was very early in his career when he got rear naked choked in the regional scenes in Houston, Texas. So a lot of learning curve there, right? Ever since then, Edgar Shiraz gets a unanimous decision win. Cody Durden gets a unanimous decision win. Ray Tesora gets a unanimous decision win. Shows a lot of striking prowess in these fights, right? Very crisp with his boxing, right? But also a Max Holloway with good footwork. Bruno Gusso Silva gets a win over him back in June. That wasn't too long ago. Literally UFC 316, and here we are, right? So taking a look at Joshua Van's opponent, okay? Obviously a much more seasoned pro. Well, not so much more than him, right? But they have the right amount of fights. This is why we're seeing a lot of 50-50 fights in these undercards that I think is really, being underestimated. Okay, so he has a win over Tyra, gets a win over Brandon Moreno, split decision. Okay, not a very easy, split decision. Alex Pantoja goes to the cards with him. And by the way, that's for the flyweight division championship fight. Loses to Alex Pantoja again way before. Okay, that was in 2021, but has loss over Brandon Moreno, but then gets a win over Brandon Moreno. So my prediction on this one, I think this is going to be a 3-round fight of the night between Joshua Van and Brandon Royval, but I think Joshua Van is going to outstrike him all throughout the round 1 to round 3. Brandon Royval is going to get his licks in. He's going to get his highlights in, but it's going to be mostly Joshua Van who's going to outscore him by the end of the fight. So moving on with that one, it is Alex Pantoja versus Kai Kara France. Now, Alex Pantoja right now has been red hot, okay? I don't think it's going to be any different. I think Kai Kara France still makes the same mistakes that he's probably going to make in terms of, keeping his hands down and getting knocked out. He has one win going into this fight, and then he already gets a title shot. I want you to put that in perspective, okay? He gets finished by Brandon Moreno, loses to Amir Albazi, and then just currently has a win over Steve Erceg. He's been 1-2 in his last 3 fights, and he gets a title shot. It's kind of strange, right? Which is why I say that he is tough. He's going to come in here prepared, and he's going to come in here a lot more careful in his previous fights, and he's going to appreciate this opportunity. And as a result of that, I think it's going to lead into a 5-round war, or at least a 5-round domination on the part of Alex Pantoja, controlling the fight from round 1 to round 5. So official prediction, Alex Pantoja with a 5-round decision. Okay, so now, moving on to the main event, okay? Now, let's time mark this, 64, 1 hour and 4 minutes. Tapora versus all right, so Tapora versus Charles Oliveira. Okay, so this main event, I got to tell you, this main event is a lot closer than people think, but I think eventually Ilia Topuria is going to clip him. Okay, so how exactly is this going to happen? Okay, well, Charles Oliveira is going to use his jab just like Max Holloway does, which is why I almost kind of confused his name out of it, right? I think that Ilia Topuria is going to knock him out later in the 4th round. They're going to have a kickboxing match. They're going to have a scramble. It's going to look very even, and I think Ilia Topuria might be a little bit surprised due to the fact of the range and the distance and the size of Charles. He's going to be overwhelmed for a little bit, but then he's going to overcome it, and then he's going to probably knock him out maybe somewhere in the 4th or 5th round. That's my official prediction for Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira. So to put it simply and to put it plainly, it's going to go as very methodical and very technical in the 1st round. It's going to be a back and forth. 2nd round, there's going to be wild scrambles with Ilia Topuria and Charles Oliveira, a few submission attempts maybe in the 3rd or 4th round. And then in the 4th round or 5th round is when Ilia Topuria is going to lay down the shot, and it's going to look very devastating, and it's going to create an even bigger buzz for Ilia Topuria because people are surprised that he was able to fight a tough fight, but also persevere through it while also being able to fight back and win in a devastating fashion. So that right there is the official prediction. That right there is the official prediction for UFC 317. Wait a minute. Hold on. Stop the music. we got a bonus round, okay? Because check this out. The bonus round is going to consist of talking about the fights that they just recently added into the mix. And that is Terrence McKenna versus Vyacheslav Borshev, Sacramento's very own Vyacheslav Borshev. Now, we know a lot about Terrence McKenna. Let's take a look at Vyacheslav Borshev, okay? Straight out of Sacramento. A bit of a 50-50 record, 8-5-1. Obviously has fought out here in the regional scenes of ONE FC and things of that nature. Okay, so let's check out his UFC record right now, okay? So he is 3-4 in the UFC right now, right? Has a win in the Contender Series, has a 50-50 record in LFA, but obviously he fought Tom Nolan in his last fight. That was in UFC 312 in the Dricus Duplessis Strickland fight. Loses to a unanimous decision, loses to a decision against James Lontop. Prior to that, gets choked by Chase Hooper, and then has a win over Maciej Haysayer. Okay, that was back in 2023. All right, well, now let's take a look at Terrence McKenna. Okay, let's take a look at where Terrence McKenna is at in his career trajectory right now. Okay, so Terrence McKenna, very interesting character, to say the least, right? Well, by the way, was a former gang member. Okay, and I didn't know this about Terrence McKenna at all. Now, I don't even know what gang that is. Obviously, it's in Florida, so that right there is a whole different world of politics, that contrasting of California. But he was also a military brat. He lived in a military base, so he had a very interesting life, right? Reminds me a lot of my homie, who's also a fighter, Jarrell Askew. If you guys know anything about Jarrell Askew, he was also a military brat, but grew up in Alaska. So it kind of reminds me of him a little bit. Has a win over Demir in Saudi Arabia. First round knockout. Gets head kicked by Esteban Rabovic. Okay, no shame in that. Has a first round knockout against Mike Breen, and he's got a lot of first round knockouts, right? He's got a 20-second knockout here, but he also gets finished, right? He's one of these fighters that's like, oh my goodness, I gotta tell you, man, this is a 50-50 fight right here, okay? I think this fight is gonna go to a finish, and I'm sorry to say, even though Vyacheslav is a Sacramento guy, I don't know if he's going to beat Terrence McKenna in this, right? But listen, both of these guys are at a 50-50 state, right? Anybody can beat anybody at any time, okay? So I'm going to go with Terrence McKenna on this one. Second round TKO. Sorry to Borshev. I don't know, man. You know what? I don't know. I'm going to go back and forth with this one. All right, I'm going to have to make an official decision right now, okay? I'm going to go with Borshev by knockout. Sorry, Terrence McKenna, but I got to go with the Sacramento guy. And guess what? I know that's a little bit of a biased pick, but hey, it is what it is by the end of the day, okay? So moving up to the card, we got, let's see now, what do we have here? 28:44 on the timestamp. We're going to make this Hyder a meal. 28:20. We're going to make, no, you know what, 29 minutes. Okay, Hyder versus, who is this guy? Jose Miguel. Okay, Jose Miguel, who doesn't have a Wikipedia page, but let's check out the one who has a Wikipedia page. Let's look at Hyder Emil. Okay, so Filipino fighting out of Cebu City. Okay, shout outs to him. Featherweight division. Trains out of the El Nino Training Center, which, by the way, is owned by Gilbert Melendez. Okay, so fought in the Contender Series. Has an 11-0 record. Ooh, okay. I might have to go with this guy, okay? Split decision over William Gomez. Really has wins with virtually, I don't want to say nobodies, but they don't have a Wikipedia page. You know, if they don't have a Wikipedia page, that means that their promotion of their fight is, of being a fighter is not really that strong. All right, but let's take a look at Jose Miguel Delgado. Who is this guy? Let's take a look at it and see if we can find him on Tapology. Let's see who this guy is. Okay, so do we find anything about this guy, Jose? Okay, so he's a featherweight. It's this guy right here. Let's check him out right here. Okay, so this is who he is. 9-1. Okay, so 11-0 versus 9-1. Very interesting. Okay, 27 years old, fights out of Yuma. Affiliation with MMA Lab. Okay, so he fights on the same team as Ben Smooth Henderson. 1-0 in the UFC right now, has an overhand right over Connor Matthews. Okay, so this is going to be a very interesting fight. Look, I'm going to go with Haider Emil by decision. You want to know why? A lot of this guy's fights, the 9-0 fighter, have not gone to the distance, right? He has one loss by a decision. So what does that tell me? When you take on somebody like Haider Emil, let's take a look at Haider Emil's record in that regard. Okay, here we go. Here's Haider Emil. Okay, so when we took a look at Haider Emil, what does the brother have going on? He's got a few decision wins under his belt. He knows how to go to the scorecards, which means I'm going to give this fight to Haider Emil by decision. That's my official prediction on this one. All right, so next fight in the card. Okay, we've gone over Hermanson, Vivian Araujo. Now we've gone over Terrence McKenna in this bonus round. Let's go with Nico Price versus Jacob Smith. Okay, Jacob Smith versus Nico Price. We know a lot about Nico Price. Okay, let's see here. 32 minutes into it, we're gonna. 32 minutes. We have Nico Price versus Smith. Okay, so what do we know about Nico Price and Smith? Okay, so Nico Price versus Smith. Let's go right here. Let's take a look at Nico Price's career so far, okay? Now, for those that don't know, he was Robbie Lawler's retirement fight. He got knocked out. Robbie Lawler got a nice send-off at UFC 290. I remember that fight vividly. I was literally in Walt Disney World in Anaheim while I was watching that fight. I was about to go to the rides, right, in Disney World, and I was in my hotel watching that. And what was great was that I actually got to watch all of the fights while I was in Disney World, while all of that was going on. So every time there was a finish, every time there was a fight in between, you know what I would do? I would go watch the fights, and then there was a lot of finishes, including this one. So it was easy to watch all of the fights. But nonetheless, after that fight, he lost to Robbie Lawler. Alex Morono was the next fight, gets a decision, and then gets a decision loss against The Rock's homeboy, Tarumba Guerrero. Okay, so obviously this guy's a veteran, right? Has over 20 fights in his career, almost 30 fights. But let's take a look at Jacob Smith. What do we know about this Jacob Smith character? A guy that is virtually unknown, that nobody knows about. I'm going to look him up right now on Topology because he doesn't have a Wikipedia page. And I doubt even with the hardcore fans, okay, they would have to look up this guy somewhere to even, find out any information on him. So, okay, let's take a look at some information on Jacob Cove Smith. Okay, 10-0. How about this? Undefeated. I might have to go with this guy, Fortress MMA. But let's take a look at some of the wins that he's had over his career. So, one UFC win, okay, taking on a veteran like that, 9-0, knocks out Preston Parson. First round knockout, left hook, ground and pound finish against Christian Schiavo. Gets a knockout against Jared McCollin. Okay, first round, and that is in the LFA. No, I'm sorry, Fury Fighting Championships. Okay, has another knockout, okay, against Austin Jones, gets a decision, another decision. So this guy's a knockout artist, and then he ground and pounds you to the ground, right? Probably something to the effect of maybe knocking you down, and then, you know what, man, I'm going with this guy. I think this guy has a chance to beat Nico Price. So I'm going to go with him against Nico Price. Now, we got Christopher Ewert taking on Jackson McKavey. Okay, let's go with the last fight that we have to take a look at. So, okay, let's take a look at who this guy is right here, right? Oops. Okay, let's take a look at who this Jackson McVeigh. Jackson McVeigh. What an interesting name, right? Jackson McVeigh. Let's take a look at where Jackson McVeigh is from. So Jackson the Moose McVeigh, middleweight division, starting off the fight 6-0, by the way, the Moose. Okay, so he's a 6'4", 185er, undefeated. St. Charles Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu MMA, where he represents, no losses, has 4 wins in the LFA. Okay, and now he's coming into the UFC in the big times, right? Against Christopher Eworth. So what kind of wins does he have here? Chokes, knockouts, chokes again, knockouts, guillotine chokes, triangle chokes. So this guy's got some good submissions. And, well, he's got an amateur bout where he lost by armbar, and then he really learned from that. So, all right, let's take a look at his opponent, Christopher Eworth. Okay, so now Christopher Eworth. Okay, Christopher Eworth out of Texas, 7-0. So 2 undefeated guys right here, okay? 2 undefeated guys. We got right here 7-0. Reese Watkins has a decision win, body shots, knee to the chin, unanimous decision against Pace. Okay, so I'm going to go with Eworth, okay? I think the height, he's going to manage to use the height against Eworth, right? 6'4", 185er. He's got a great chance of winning this one, but I think this goes to a decision. I think both of these guys, I think this is a UFC debut for both guys, right? I believe that is a UFC debut for both guys. I don't think, last fight was in the LFA. This guy's last fight is, so these are regional guys coming into UFC. So this is both their UFC debut. I'm going to have to go with, I'm going to have to go with McVeigh on this one. Yeah, I'm going with Jason McVeigh on this one. Just the height alone, I think he's going to get it. I think he's going to pull off some submission attempts on top of that. But I also think that he wins by decision. I think he's going to out-grapple him. That's the way that I see this fight going. Just a whole lot of grappling on his side. And the UFC jitters is a real thing, right? This is the big show. Look at where they are going to be fighting at. They are going to be fighting literally in the biggest card of the year, International Fight Week. It doesn't get any bigger than that. So for sure, the UFC jitters are going to be there. And I think that he probably will have the better of those exchanges in the feet, and especially with the range that he has going on. But I also think that there's going to be some good scrambles involved in this fight. And basically, that's it. That's the whole entire fight card. I had to add those last ones in there because in the recording of this particular video, well, we only had 8 fights. And then after that, all of a sudden, these other 4 fights came into the mix. So how many fights do we have in total for UFC 317? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we got 12 fights in total. I gave the first 8 and then the last 4 fights that were added into this card. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the card. I hope you guys enjoy the whole entire fight week. Obviously, there's also Jake Paul that is fighting this week, but I think this one beats this weekend's fights, and it's almost like we know what's going to happen with Jake Paul and Chavez, or do we? But either way, we're going to tap in for both, but more so focused on UFC 317. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Come tap in for the live stream this weekend, and I will see you in the next one, inshallah. MMA needs, if you want to find predictions, news, and everything that deals with MMA, shout outs to Kyrie, Abu El-Kheer MMA, Sacramento, California, represent.
That's right, Tyree. I appreciate you, my nigga. You came in here, you was talking that shit. That's right, bro. Much love, bro. I appreciate you for always stepping in, bro. Be safe out there. Man, my name is Tyree. My man Kyrie came on. He started talking that shit. And here's the thing. Here's the thing. That nigga whoop your fucking ass. You would think that nigga's all squared up and all that type of shit? Nigga tell me to beat your fucking ass. Like, man, fuck you up. You would never see it coming. So for those of y'all.
All right, so guys, yeah, that's the end of my video right now. Don't forget to like and subscribe. A little recap on everything that we did. Obviously, I did the whole entire card. There was one fight in that card that got canceled. It was Uworth versus Jackson McVeigh. Obviously, Uworth was asked to come here at a week's notice. He went and had a 10-pound over the weight limit weigh-in. Obviously, was a complete, disaster. But nonetheless, that fight gets taken out of the clock, out of the card. So, yeah, that's what we got going on for this weekend. So, okay, that is all that I have really for this one. Check out from the very beginning to the end all the interesting topics that we touched on in this particular video. Obviously, we talked about Tupac, talking about police brutality. Vice Mayor of LA incites gangs to fight federal government. FBI investigation is underway, or is it? Find out. Also, UFC 317 fight week just well over 24 hours away. Guys, that is all that I have really for this one. Do not forget to like and subscribe. I will see you in the next one, inshallah.